Welcome to Studio Vellvet's monthly budget spreadsheet demo. How to copy and open the spreadsheet. When you open the monthly budget spreadsheet for the first time, this is what you'll see. You will begin on the Instruction tab. To begin using the spreadsheet, you must copy the file so that you can edit it. Hover over Make a copy of this spreadsheet in this purple box and click on the blue link. This will then take you to a new window. Click on Make Copy. Alternatively, you can also do this by navigating to File in the top left corner and finding Make a Copy in the drop-down menu. This way, it will ask if you'd like to rename the file and select where it will be saved. In this case, it'll be saved in My Drive. Tab navigation. After making a copy of the spreadsheet, it'll allow you to edit and input your data. You can navigate through the tabs in the bottom left. The monthly budget comes with 3 tabs. The first tab, which will be familiar to you, is for instructions. It outlines how to get started. The second tab is the Budget Overview, the main tab. This is what it will look like when you first begin. Everything will be set to 0. The third tab is your Calendar tab. Here, you can record any notes, make to-do lists, and input reminders on each day of the month, like when your rent is due or when you have upcoming birthdays to remember. Changing the currency symbol. The currency is set to dollars by default, but to change it is very simple. Double-click on the field where you see the dollar symbol and delete it. Simply replace it with any other currency. Here you can see me changing it to British pounds. Hit Enter to make the change. It may take a few seconds for the fields to update, as you see the financial snapshot has changed as well as all of the categories. Setting date. In the left corner of the financial snapshot, you will see the month you are on. By default, it is set to the start of the year. You have 2 options here to set the start date of your budget and the end date of your budget. Yet the end date is not necessary. It is handy to use if you are budgeting weekly or bi-weekly. To set the start date, double-click on the date and a drop-down calendar will appear. Flick through the months with the arrows here and select the relevant month you are in. Select the date you want your budget to start. Here I selected July the 1st. If I was budgeting weekly, I could select July 7th as the final day of my budget. If you're not fussed about the end date, you can simply click once on the field and delete it using backspace on your keyboard. Categories. Let's go over the main functions. A useful tool that we've added to make your life easier, if you have never used spreadsheets before, is this checkbox. Checkbox to see editable fields. Hover over and click on this white box. This will then highlight all the fields you can enter information into. You can toggle this function on and off as and when you need it. Let's just leave this on. If you navigate down to Financial Summary, at the top of the table, you will see Starting Balance. Here, you can see Expected and Actual. The starting balance is any funds you would like to roll over from your current balance or savings. Let's say you currently have £500 and would like to add that to the budget. Simply input 500 into this field in the Actual column. Only input the numerical figures as the currency symbol is already set. The expected column would be handy for the next budget you fill out. For example, if you expect to save £500 each month, you can input this here. Then you can see if you met your target. Keep in mind, this will contribute to your left to spend. If these are savings and you don't want to touch this money, you can just leave the starting balance blank. These rows will populate automatically, so don't worry about this bit for now. Let's begin with the income category. These are your subcategories Some have already been filled out by default. You can delete these as you wish and add more if you need to. Let's say you have 2 paychecks from 2 different jobs. Simply double-click on this paycheck and change it to Paycheck 1. Add Paycheck 2 underneath. If you have a side hustle, you can add that in too. There are 12 rows you can fill with all types of income. Add business income, property income, and much more. Make sure to avoid duplicate subcategory names. If you had paycheck and paycheck twice, it would mess up the calculations, so that is why we add the 1 and 2 to differentiate them. Now that you have set your income subcategories, you can move on to the next category, which is bills. Again, some rows have been already filled out, but you can add up to 12 bills following the same process as in the income category. You can delete these subcategories if you wish and rename them to your liking. Click and delete, or click and drag to delete the selection. If you make a mistake and want to redo an action, navigate to Edit and select Undo. Double-click on an empty field and type in your subcategories. We've tried to add some common subcategories to make your life a little easier. Remember that you can always add more at any time. So let's move on to the payday and due columns. These fields are calendar drop-downs. You can double-click here to set your payday for each income. This works the same on the due columns, setting visual reminders for bills, subscriptions and debt payments. And once you have made those payments, use these checkboxes to keep track of what payments you have made. Now let's focus on the expected column in the category section. Enter the expected amount you're anticipating to receive for each income, and for all other categories, enter the expected amount you plan to spend. Take a moment to complete as many expected fields as possible. Doing so will initiate the calculation of your diagrams and visual data. If I speed up this process and fill in all of my expected fields, you'll notice that the bar chart at the top is now displaying valuable information. As you continue to log your transactions later on, the bar chart will essentially compare your projected spending with the actual expenses. This becomes a powerful tool for identifying areas where you might be overspending. Duplicating files. Duplicating files is extremely useful and time-saving for your future self, so don't skip this part. Now that we have filled in all of the category subnames and set the expected columns, we are ready to start budgeting. However, I don't want to do this every time I want to start a new budget, so do this instead. Use this file as your default budget and just update it in the future if you need to make changes. Deselect the highlight option for now. You won't need the Instructions tab anymore, so delete this by hitting the triangle on the tab here. Select Delete. Rename this file for better organization. Rename it to something like Default Monthly Budget. Go to File and make a copy. Now, depending on whether you budget weekly, bi-weekly or monthly, you can name this new budget to anything that references the period you are budgeting in. So this could be week 1, week 2, so on. Or if you are like me and budget monthly, I will name this January. Once I complete this budget, I will return to the default budget, make a new copy, and name it February and so on for the month after. You can also rename the tab too. Hit the triangle on the Budget tab and click Rename. I'll name this January as well. Transaction Log. Scroll down to the Transaction tab. This is what brings your budget spreadsheet to life. There's a few important things to note here. At the end of every day, or whenever is most convenient for you, simply input your bank transactions into this table. In the first column, select the date of the transaction. This is once again a calendar field. Double-click and select the date of the transaction. Next, input the amount you had spent. In the category column, click on the arrow you see here. This will show you all of the categories in a drop-down. For this example, I'll select Expenses. Hit the triangle in the Sub-category column and you will see all of the subcategories we had added earlier. I'll select Coffee and then fill in my Notes column. I can add Starbucks. This just allows us to save space in naming our subcategories. For example, I can add another, this time Travel Expense. And note that it was a train ticket. As you add transactions, you will see that the daily balance overview is going to change. You can visualize your spending and see your daily balance. At the moment, it is showing us that we have a negative balance with these brackets, since we haven't added income. If we scroll back to the top and view our financial snapshot, you can see 0 total income. To log income is the same process. Select Payday, input how much you were paid, and select Income in the category drop-down. Then specify which income it is. Now our balance should be positive. I will quickly input a bunch of other transactions to show you how this works. You do not need to keep adding these in any specific order. Just make sure to keep your transaction dates relevant to the budget start date you set at the beginning. These transactions are made up just for example purposes. If, for some reason, the daily balance overview doesn't look right, it's very likely that some dates might be in the wrong month. Diagrams. Now that we have logged a handful of transactions, it's enough to start reading our data. Scroll back to the top and view your financial snapshot. We can see our income, the total we spent based on our transactions, and the amount we have left to spend here. Our financial summary has been updated automatically, along with the actual columns in all categories tables. View the total of each category at the bottom of each table. You can monitor your total expected vs total actual for income and spending. Which leads us to the bar chart at the top. If I click in the middle of this bar chart and hover my mouse over the bars, I'll see the figures for the outgoings of each category. The solid orange is your actual spending, so you can see that I'm doing well so far, not going above my expected spending. To the right, we have the spending summary pie chart. Again, click and hover to see more in-depth information. This will show us which category you are spending the most money in. Quite obviously, I'm spending the most on my bills, and that's probably due to my rent costs. Next, we have the top 10 expenses pie chart. And look, this confirms that my rent is what contributes to my bills category being the biggest spending area. Our second biggest spending is car finance. Then we have Dream Holiday, which is our savings, then our emergency fund, and so on. Let's scroll down to the balance overview again and have a better look. Click and hover on the purple dots, which represent each day. We can see my payday was here, and also here. That will be from my side hustle. We can see that my spending has been fairly stable and that there aren't any significant dips in my balance. The Calendar tab. Finally, to finish off, we have the Calendar tab. The month displayed here is linked to the Budget tab. So, whenever you change the date here, it will also change the month displayed in the calendar. Since we started to fill in our transactions, our financial snapshot has been updated here too. To make general notes, we have room here on the left. Simply click and type into the fields. Below, we can create a to-do list. And once you complete your reminders, click the checkbox to the left. This will then cross out the reminder. You can do this on any specific day too. Select any date, set reminders, and tick them off as complete. Let's fill in some more reminders across the whole month. This concludes our monthly budget spreadsheet demo. Thanks for your support. For extra help or valuable feedback, message us on Etsy. Your input is vital in improving our products. Happy budgeting and see you next time.